Have you ever wondered what happened to Woolworths? If you grew up in the 20th century, there's no way you could forget those aisles filled with everything you could possibly want, from toys to candy and even pet turtles. It was my favorite store growing up, and it truly was the best place to grab all the supplies you needed. Today we're taking a trip down memory lane to explore the history of F.W. Woolworth Company, a retail giant that shaped shopping as we know it. Imagine walking into a bustling Woolworth store on a Saturday afternoon. The irresistible smell of fresh popcorn hits you as you enter. As a kid, you'd eat at the lunch counter, then head downstairs to see the fish, birds, and hamsters. Maybe you'd buy paper dolls or even those magical jumping beans. But Woolworths wasn't just a store, it was an experience. Whether you were browsing for bargains or savoring a slice of pie at the soda fountain, it was a place that brought people together. Now, let's unwrap the story of this five-and-dime store to see how this once-beloved chain reached its peak and why it eventually faded into memory. From its golden days to its final chapter, the story of Woolworth department stores is nothing short of fascinating. Ready? To truly understand Woolworth's impact, we need to go back to 1879, when Frank Winfield Woolworth introduced a revolutionary concept in retail. Opening his first store in Utica, New York, he had a bold idea: sell a wide variety of goods at fixed, affordable prices, just 5 and 10 cents. This five-and-dime model was groundbreaking at the time, giving customers the freedom to browse without the pressure of a salesperson or the need to haggle. The real turning point came a year later in 1880, when Woolworth relocated his efforts to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. There, his store grew a lot, and it was the start of a big empire of stores. Soon, Woolworth stores began appearing in towns and cities across the United States and beyond, offering everything from household essentials to novelty items that captured the imagination of shoppers. By the early 1900s, Woolworths had become a super popular store, known for being cheap and easy for everyone to shop at. One of Woolworth's defining features was its famous lunch counters, added in the 1920s. These counters became iconic gathering spots where people could enjoy a hot meal, often for less than $1. Imagine sitting down for a grilled cheese sandwich and a milkshake during a busy shopping day. Simple pleasures that made Woolworths feel like a second home. And those banana splits? They were the best. Many people still recall the heavenly aroma inside Woolworth's stores, the smell of popcorn wafting through the aisles and the sizzle of fresh food being prepared at the counter. For decades, Woolworths wasn't just a store. It was a cornerstone of community life. Families shopped for their everyday needs, and children rushed to see the latest toys. During the holidays, the stores came alive with magical displays that drew in adults and children alike, creating cherished memories for generations.
It's your everyday store for value, 'cause at Woolworth your dollar goes far.
By the 1930s, it had hundreds of stores in the U.S. and other countries, becoming one of the first famous brands worldwide. Starting small and growing fast, it didn't just meet people's needs, it changed the way shopping was done. By the mid-20th century, Woolworths had reached its peak, becoming a household name and a cornerstone of Main Street America. At its height, the chain operated thousands of stores worldwide, with locations spanning the United States, Canada, Europe, and even South America. One of the best things about this famous store was all the different stuff you could buy. You could find almost anything there: toys, school supplies, kitchen tools, makeup, and even live pets like goldfish. How cool is that?
Value and selection at Woolworth are a back-to-school tradition. Save now on a 48-function student calculator, just $13.99. Save 25% on Timex watches for the whole family.
Look at those prices. Can you believe it? The aisles seemed endless, offering something for everyone, whether you were a parent shopping for essentials or a kid with a few coins burning a hole in your pocket. Woolworth stores were also famous for their holiday magic. During Christmas, the stores transformed into winter wonderlands, complete with dazzling displays, toy catalogs, and special events for children. For many families, a trip to Woolworths during the holidays was as much a tradition as decorating the tree. And who could forget the iconic lunch counters, which had become a cultural phenomenon by the 1950s. These counters were gathering spots for people from all walks of life, serving hearty meals and classic treats like hamburgers, hot dogs, and root beer floats. But it wasn't just about the food, it was about the connection. Families, friends, and co-workers would sit side by side, sharing simple yet memorable moments together. You could smell the butterscotch candy as soon as you walked in, and the vanilla Coke. It was the best in town. In the 1960s, the chain became part of history during the Civil Rights Movement. 4 African-American college students staged a peaceful protest at a segregated lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. They demanded service, standing up against racial inequality. This act of bravery sparked sit-ins across the country, becoming a key moment in the fight for civil rights. At first, the company resisted making changes, but later that same year, the protests led to the integration of its lunch counters. From its small beginnings to its rapid growth, the store didn't just sell products, it changed the way people experienced retail. But what really happened to one of America's once favorite stores? How did it fade into obscurity and become forgotten? As much as Woolworths felt like an eternal part of Main Street America, the reality of retail began to shift in the mid-20th century. By the 1970s and 1980s, the company faced increasing competition and changing consumer habits, which marked the beginning of its decline. A big challenge was the rise of stores that specialized in one type of product. Places like Toys R Us and Radio Shack became popular because they offered more choices and knew a lot about what they sold. Meanwhile, discount giants like Walmart and Kmart provided lower prices on everyday essentials, drawing customers away from Woolworth's generalist approach. Another factor was the emergence of shopping malls. These sprawling complexes became the go-to destinations for families, combining department stores, specialty shops, and entertainment under one roof. Woolworth's traditional downtown locations, which had once been its strength, suddenly felt outdated in comparison to these modern retail hubs. Operationally, Woolworths struggled to adapt. Its stores began to look tired, and its product mix didn't keep pace with evolving consumer tastes. The charm of its 5 and dime model, once revolutionary, now felt like a relic of the past. Shoppers wanted more convenience, wider selections, and lower prices than Woolworths could consistently offer. The saddest part of Woolworth's story was when its lunch counters closed in the late 1980s. Who else misses this place? Man, it was something special. These counters, which had been a hallmark of the Woolworth experience, were no longer profitable. Their absence symbolized the fading warmth and community connection that had once set the store apart. By the early 1990s, Woolworths couldn't keep up with the new ways of shopping. In 1997, after over 100 years, they had to close their stores in the U.S. For many people, it felt like saying goodbye to an old friend that had been around for generations. Even though the Woolworth name still exists in places like Germany and South Africa, and through Foot Locker stores, the original 5 and dime shops are now just a special memory. Although the doors of Woolworth stores have long since closed in the United States, the legacy of this iconic retailer lives on in the hearts and memories of those who grew up visiting its aisles. I remember those weekends growing up, the best days ever. We'd go shopping and always stop at Woolworths for a soda or a milkshake. The prices were so great back then. For so many, Woolworths was more than just a store. It was where families bought school supplies before the first day of class, where kids spent their allowances on toys and candy, and where friends gathered at the lunch counter to share laughs over root beer floats. A time when a few coins could buy joy, when downtowns thrived, and when a store could feel like the heart of a community. Those truly were the good old days. So, what are your memories of Woolworths? Did you have a favorite item you always bought, or a special tradition tied to the store? Share your stories in the comments below. We'd love to hear them.